Welcome to Mayrvel Kirblog's. We will start with my favorite member of the Avengers as of only 5 years ago after seeing the movie. Let's begin, everybody. Welcome to Mayrvel, the most difficult to pronounce themed month I've yet done in all three of the ones that I've done so far. I'm going to start off with good old Captain America. So I knew next to nothing about this character when I went to go see Captain America, the First Avenger. In fact, actually, rewinding a little bit, I really knew next to nothing about most of the Avengers characters, save for the fact that, oh, yeah, they're members of the equivalent of the Justice League, because I was more of a DC follower at the time and you know, big into a lot of the animated series and movies and things for that. And I'd obviously seen all these characters or most of them as playable characters in Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2, which I had played extensively and was mostly focusing on the Capcom characters. So, you know, the irony in terms of quality these days. But yeah, I really knew next to nothing. And I went into Iron Man like completely blind, which of course was kind of the beginning of everything. And I was really taken aback by how much more I enjoyed it than I expected. And then kind of was hooked from there, and I went in once again blind with Iron Man 2 and Thor, and even really the new Incredible Hulk movie. I was just with Edward Norton. I was just open to, because Mike Lucas and I had seen the previous one that Universal had done ages and ages ago, and it was all we remember was like, wow, that was really really fucking bad. But the newer one with Edward Norton was a lot more enjoyable. And then finally Captain America came out, and I can't remember exactly what I was expecting when I went in to go see it at the time. I know I was kind of looking forward to it, because I was like, all right, I mean, I've been you know, very impressed by all of these so far. I think actually to be technical, I think I hadn't seen Thor yet, so technically Thor was the last one that I'd seen of the Phase 1 movies before I went in to go see Avengers. But I was open to it because I was like, okay, they've impressed me with everything so far. Let's see how this goes. I really, again, know next to nothing about this character, just like with all the other ones, other than just he's a real American hero. And I mean, my fucking joke from the end of the announcement video, the Stars and Stripes, good work, soldier. That's all I knew. That's literally it. And also, of course, my very minimal knowledge of what his deal was in the X-Men Evolution episode he was in. Where, by the way, correction to my Digino voice acting video, David Hayter did not voice him in that X-Men Evolution episode because he didn't speak. So there's that, you know. But yes, I knew he existed in the time of World War II. I knew that in various continuities he knew Wolverine at the time, and they worked together, etc. And you know, he was a badass and everything. And I was like, okay, cool. So you know, it was that was it. Again, that was absolutely it. So watching the movie itself, I was absolutely blown away by it, and it still remains to this day one of, if not maybe even still, my all-time favorite of the individual Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. Now, of course, I have yet to see Civil War, and I will say, and I'm going to get to this later, but Winter Soldier is also incredible, but I'm not there yet for either of those things in conversation topic. The thing about and okay, so when I was raving and going on and on about this movie, so this would have been 2011. I just finished college at the time, and was still kind of figuring myself out. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I finished college and blah blah blah. A lot of people were kind of tossing around totally fair jokes about how, like, oh, haha, you just like him, you just like Steve Rogers because he was a skinny guy like you, and he's a Boy Scout, and blah blah blah. This is the summer right after I finished college, and was like, what am I doing? You know. So I see a movie with this character who is like, you know, an overachiever and really wants to do the best he possibly can, and is, you know, is not exactly the most physically fit person in the world, and you know, he's very morally upstanding and etc. And I certainly. I will admit, I certainly do relate, probably more than any other superhero character, to Steve Rogers. That does not mean that I identify like I am totally a Captain America type person, because he is far, far and away a better person than I ever could be, and is more so like the type of person that I strive to be like. And in terms of like his moral sensibilities. But then again, I mean, I'm sure that Civil War maybe might even prove otherwise, and in a good and interesting way. Or who knows if it's anything like I'm imagining. Maybe it'll be quite similar to how I am after all, in that, I get a little extreme and over dramatic sometimes with some of my moral stances on things, to the point of like, all right, we get it, shut up, Chris, who knows. But either way, so Steve certainly is a character that I very much do relate to, and I look up to in that way. And the depiction of Steve Rogers and Captain America by extension as a role model character in First Avengers, I think, was really, really intriguing. Beyond that too, just in terms of the aesthetics, I had, at the time, still really, I've been very interested in wanting to see movies like depicting war. And granted, I know that Captain America is very, very much a fantastic, a fantasy, and it's a fantastic film, and it's also a fantasy-esque depiction of the time of war. So I'm sure that there was tons of effort put into trying to make it as legit as possible in terms of making it feel like it was a real thing out of that period of time. I know that that's also, I mean, obviously, for fuck's sake, I mean, Red Skull and everything. It's like this, it's fantasy, but was still executed in a way that I found very, very intriguing and cool, and I had wanted to see that kind of setting at the very least a lot more, and having enough of a sense of when you lose people on the battlefield and when shit sucks and when awful things happen and they hit you unexpectedly, like with what happens with Bucky. Not that, I mean, obviously Winter Soldier kind of cancels that out a little bit with Bucky, but still the same kind of feeling of that and et cetera, and just Cap also becoming like this icon and him not wanting to be a novelty. Like there's so many for a period piece of a time that I didn't, I don't have any kind of firsthand or even really secondhand major experience with, because honestly, history was not my best subject in school, and with a character who is so far out there in terms of it being a superhero or anything. I found it still a very, very identifiable and relatable kind of story. And it was really powerful, and especially for having such a somber ending as well. Which I mean, anybody could guess what the ending was going to be in the long run, more or less, in terms of we have to set up for the fact that he's going to be in present time with the rest of the Avengers and everything. But the ride that we got from his battle against Red Skull and Hydra and everything at that time, for just that being a standalone story, was really, really cool, and it just, I don't know, for some reason that story touched me in a way that really still none of the other movies have, and I think that's the other reason why for me Winter Soldier doesn't necessarily top it for me. Winter Soldier, which I'm not going to get to, is also an incredible movie. It is much more like a traditional superhero movie, but that said, it's also one of, if not among, the best superhero movies ever, because all the people who I spoke to who weren't really that big of a fan of Captain America: The First Avenger, which is totally fine because I could see that not being a movie for everybody. That's much more so a personal favorite for me. Winter Soldier is much more of a one that is unanimously loved by people because of the fact that it's just so well executed and as not only a superhero but almost kind of like a spy movie in a way. Its cast of characters is much more robust in terms of it having a lot more of the modern day Avengers characters and everything. I practically consider it honestly more of a Captain America and Black Widow type movie, because that was the thing. This is related to, but what I was kind of hoping that the Marvel movies would do, and they're kind of doing this, but they're not 100% marketing them that way necessarily, but having some of the later movies be not just such and such character 2. It would also more so be these two characters in a movie now, and not just sequel. And Captain America Winter Soldier seems to me personally like a Captain America and Black Widow movie. As with Civil War, I mean, granted, you could say Civil War is kind of the Avengers 2.5 in a way, which it's totally fair to make that argument. But I'm seeing this more as a Captain America and Iron Man movie, because it's predominantly going to be about the two of them. Now, to be fair, I don't necessarily even know like much about what's going to happen and what combinations of characters are going to be like in the other Marvel Phase 3 movies, or even Phase 4, as far as that point. Or I guess 3.5 with the Infinity War stuff, you know what I mean? So I don't know if like, Thor Ragnarok is going to have like, Hulk or some other like major character be very much involved or whatever. But so far from what I'm seeing, Captain America, the Captain America movies are doing the most doing what I was hoping for with the future Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, where it having like combinations of heroes being able to do different things, and that's why Civil War I'm really looking forward to. In terms of like, especially seeing the sort of moral clash of that and everything. That's the thing too, and I'll probably talk about this again a little bit in the Avengers Kirblog, and I did already when I had my reactions to Age of Ultron. But the thing about the individual Marvel movies is that they tend to be the ones leading up to the Avengers ones, the big crossovers, is that they tend to be a lot more cerebral in terms of like their theming and everything. And Captain America: The First Avenger was very, very, very much like one of the best, to me, again, one of the best examples of that, of like, having a study on this particular character, and like, showing a lot about what his whole deal was. And of course, obviously, it just being a fun action movie with, lots of cool shit everywhere. And the Winter Soldier, I think, was a step further than that in terms of like the intrigue, and again, it feeling much more like a genuine spy movie, and it made really, really good use of all these other now shared characters that we have attachment to, thanks to, by this point, the Avengers with the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and Nick Fury and even Black Widow, of course, and Falcon as well being introduced, and then Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier, obviously, I'm interested to learn more about him, when we see Civil War. But I mean, thus far, everything about like the Captain America world has been really, really intriguing to me. Like Red Skull in the first movie, which I can admit in terms of something not being as interesting. Red Skull's not the most intriguing villain ever in the Marvel universe. Like overall, there's certainly far more interesting bad guys, even just throughout the ones that they've used in the movie so far. I know nothing about Baron Zemo. I know that he's going to be in Civil War. There's been announcements about that. Red Skull, funnily enough, I think I seem to enjoy a little bit more so just like the cartoons, like all the recent like animated stuff with Ultimate Spider-Man and Avengers Assemble and all that, just because he's just kind of funny in how like fucking inept he is. I know that maybe that's not like the greatest depiction of Red Skull either, but just, I mean, he served an okay purpose. And then in Winter Soldier, not even having necessarily a clear like solid like big bad guy or whatever of the movie, like I guess Crossbones like was kind of the closest thing to that, and then I know he'll be in Civil War as well. Welcome to the Civil War anticipation Kirblog. I'm seeing it this week, and that will be the next one for Saturday for sure. And I might even do a little offhanded vlog or something like from the theater when I go on Thursday, because I'm going to opening night with Mike and Steve, so I look forward to that, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I like. You know what? The other thing too is, and even in the Avengers movies, the two that we've had so far, Steve makes for such a great foil. Like when he's okay, Superman. You look at Superman. You look at a character like Superman, which I know a lot of people are very rightfully critical of, or if not that, just like not as interested in. Superman to me, this is related, so bear with me. Superman to me is really, really interesting when he is in the presence of the Justice League. The individual Superman stories, I know the Superman animated series and some of the movies and stuff are cool, but for me personally, Superman is the most interesting when he is the leader of the Justice League, and he has a sense of responsibility not only to his planet, but to everywhere and everybody that he works with, because that makes him a lot more intriguing. Now, Steve is not anywhere near as technically powerful as Superman, like by a fucking long shot. But it's his, similar, like, Superman-esque Boy Scout mentality that makes him very intriguing and interesting around the rest of the Avengers. And especially in terms of, him being kind of the closest, I guess, thing to a leader, more or less. I mean, obviously, Nick Fury is above all of them in that kind of way. But in terms of, like, being able to command everybody, Cap is kind of in that position. And he has to have that same sense of responsibility. Yeah, I think I talked a little bit about this, too, in the fantastic characters doing normal things, Kirblog, whatever I called that one. But yeah, like in the Avengers, like the scenes between both Avengers movies, the scenes between all the team and Captain America, like being the kind of like, oh, I understood that reference, like just like the kind of Boy Scout like dork, slash old man but not really type foil to everybody, like makes him for a it makes for a great dynamic that I feel even strengthens all of the other characters as well. It makes everybody in that team feel like a really good set of characters as well, which is why I think also the cast that they picked for Winter Soldier, where it is all of the more recognizable characters, and as I'm sure will probably be the case with Civil War, as there's much more of them in this one, it's like it like raises the tide in terms of quality for everybody. Like I feel like that's and that, like you could say that about any of the characters. Like there's that cool thing about Iron Man, about Thor, about Bruce Banner, about Natasha, about Hawkeye, etc. And even Nick Fury and Coulson and Maria Hill and all of them, like those little things about each of them that kind of really help make them a great dynamic. And as the actors' portrayals of them in the cinematic universe in particular, I feel really help accentuate that. I mean, like they picked like such amazing people for all these characters, I would say. But yeah, Steve in particular is the one that like I just get so much amusement out of, like more so than anything, and consistently across the board, his first two movies have been the ones that I've personally liked the most, even more so than the Avengers movies themselves. And that's saying something because, quite frankly, I haven't seen any individual Marvel Cinematic Universe movies that I have absolutely hated. Believe it or not even Iron Man 2 or 3. They're not amazing, and they're certainly not amongst my favorites, but it's like with Pixar, where it's like even Pixar's like not great movies are still pretty decent and better than a lot of other shit that you'll see out there. Not to say that, I don't know, I still haven't seen Cars 2, so I guess I can't really, or 3, or Planes, so, who am I to say that, but either way. Like I've enjoyed all of them to any extent, but Captain America, those two movies, and as I'm sure I will probably enjoy the shit out of Civil War when I see it, those are the ones that are the biggest influence on me, that I had the most personal enjoyment out of, that I took away the most of an experience out of, that was really memorable and impactful to me, more so than anything. And it's all really dating back, well, not dating back, but it goes back to just how good of a character Steve is and how well they executed him in the context of this, of the cinematic universe in particular. Like that is what made me like this character. And then even carrying over again, like I mentioned a little bit about the cartoons. Like I do like him, the Roger Craig Smith version from Avengers Assemble. I have been told, like with a million shows that I need to be watching, I've been told that Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes is fantastic. I know that Cap is a major player in that. Maybe someday I'll watch that show at some point. I need to watch Spectacular Spider-Man before that, because I've been promising myself for ages. But yeah. I think that's going to wrap us up. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my gushing about Captain America for 15, 20 minutes. That's going to do it. So I guess in the comments below, I'm going to ask everybody really nicely, and I'm going to hope to God that all of you are going to be very accommodating, and please do what I ask when I say, for the love of God, please do not post any Civil War spoilers in the comments. I am asking you very, very nicely, please don't do that. I want to believe that you guys are all nice and smart enough to not do that, so please don't post any Captain America Civil War spoilers. I'm begging you, because I'm placing my trust in you, because I like to respond to comments. I like to look at stuff, what everybody's saying, and respond, and et cetera, and keep an eye on everything as much as possible. I'm asking you, please don't spoil anything. If you've seen it, if you live internationally, if you're in in Europe or Australia or wherever, I know it's been released everywhere else, please don't fucking tell me anything. Or if you've read the fucking wiki article, or if it's leaked somewhere and you've watched it, whatever. I'm going to see it on Thursday night. I will be posting my Civil War comments. That'll be the next Kirblog for this Saturday. Will be my response to Civil War in general. So please don't post any spoilers. I am spending a full minute asking you to not do that. I swear to God, please don't. But in the meantime, otherwise, please leave your thoughts about Captain America, the character, and the movies, not Civil War. The first 2 movies or the cartoons or anything like that at all, etc. Please let me know your thoughts about him as a character. Do you not like him even? And is there a reason why? And in which case, tell me if there's something about him that hasn't really struck a chord with you in the same kind of way, or is there anything more about him that maybe I haven't mentioned that you think is really cool about him from some of the stuff in the comics or anything? Let me know. And if you have future Kirblog topic suggestions for Mayrvel, let me know in the comments below as well. And I will catch you all on Saturday for the Civil War talkback one. Please don't. Please, I'm begging you. Goodbye.